your bodies and peace in your homes. May your life be blessed. May you walk together with all of us on this Sabbath day into the very presence of the Creator of the universe. May His calmness, His shalom flow over you and into your household and into your community and into our world. May He begin to teach us how to fix the world one step at a time, one day at a time, one conversation at a time. Thank you for joining me today. If you're with me, from wherever you may be, if you just drop your name and your location and any comments you might wish to make in the comments section below, I would thank you. Also, if you're listening on YouTube at a later time, please do the same so I can go back and check and see who I'm talking to and what indeed I may be prompted to say in reply to your comments. This is the week of Parsha Korach. We never tend to look forward to this week particularly because this week tends to be the culmination of some negative times, a season of times that began with Parsha Alotka 3 weeks ago. This is the narrative that the Holy One has designed to place in Torah about our worst moments in the desert. We need to learn by virtue of reading about our ancestors' experiences, which really are repeated in every generation and are being repeated even right now in the world, and by us, unfortunately, many times. We need to learn from these experiences. With the reason they're put in the Torah and given to us to read again and again each year after year is because these are common things that happen to mankind. These are the temptations, the tests, and the trials that all men experience and all men must learn to deal with. And if we're going to be the Creator of the universe's special forces, if we're going to be His kingdom of priests, and if we're going to be His holy nation, we need to be masters at these things. And so He's placed the stories of our biggest failures in His Torah in order that we might learn from those mistakes and not repeat them, and teach our children and our children's children how not to repeat those mistakes, those major mistakes that we experienced in our worst days. So if you would join me now, we're going to begin our studies in Korach. This is Parsha number 38 of the entire book of Torah, Numbers 16:1 through 18:32. That's Numbers 16:1 through 18:32. My subtitle for this discussion today is, How Did It Ever Come to This? Sometimes we look at our lives. Maybe you have this week or recently, or maybe you should have, and said, how did my life turn into this? How did my influence in the world diminish this much? How did I become the center of my own universe? How did I leave the pathway, the beautiful illumined pathway that the Holy One set up for me in Torah? How did I leave my Messiah's side? And how did I get out from beneath His feet of teaching and the dust of my rabbi? How did I get away from that and evolve into the person that I am with the relationships that I have and the problems in those relationships and the trauma and the drama that comes out of my interactions with other humans? Why am I like this? How did I become like this? How did it ever come to this? Well, this is a culmination of things. This week's Torah portion, though, however, at the culmination point is full of fighting words. Here an insult, there an insult, everywhere an insult. Do you ever feel like that's what life is about? Do you ever feel like that's what the world is doing? You look at the political situation or the news or the ethnocentric war discussions or the culture wars, or if you look at any of those things, and basically it has devolved away from any real comments about anything real and substantive and helpful to here an insult, there an insult, everywhere an insult. Insults come and they must be responded to, and unfortunately we choose to respond by insults. So the escalation takes place. It just continues to evolve into a place where, how did we get to be like this? Well, seasons like this, beloved, don't just happen. A nation has to have sown the wind, which Irish describe as the talk of hot air coming out of the emotion, the rants, the raves, the complaints, the negativity. So we have to have sown the wind in the time of former rains in the springtime if we're going to reap the whirlwind in the heat of the summer. Now, for all my friends in the Southern Hemisphere, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Auckland, all the places in South America, Mexico, and down in that region as well, and Africa. I'm talking about summer, realizing you guys are cold, and so I've seen reports of snow and windy weather. And so please follow along with me. We can just substitute summer for winter in your situation. But here's the situation. If you're going to sow the wind in the springtime, you're going to reap the whirlwind in the heat of the summer when the tensions mount. And when the tempers flare, and when accusations start to fly off the tongue, and when protest movements begin to form and take shape and fill the streets, and when civil unrest, if not civil war, is in the air. Well, all this stuff has been mounting for a while now, and unfortunately, all the world, and most of the time, all of us, at least most of us, find ourselves having been guilty on at least an occasion here or there of throwing more fuel on the toxic fire. So we have been sowing the wind, and now, yes, here it is. You look around us, you see what we've got. You see we are reaping the whirlwind. This is the season of reaping what we have sown. It's not pleasant. We look around and we say, what a mess we have created. We want to blame somebody else, and you can blame anyone you wish to. You can blame a party, a political party. You can blame a nation, nationality. You can blame a gender. You can blame a generation. You can blame whoever you want to. You're just going to be throwing more fuel on the fire. The question is not who you can blame. The question is, can we fix this mess? Is there a viable plan in the Creator's mind, a tikkun olam? Is there a discipline of words and actions and approaches and responses that He has designed in His own brilliance that make the world better? Better for us being in it because we are following these disciplines of words, actions, approaches, and responses. Better for us to be in it than instead of worse for us to be in it. If we consider the contributions we have made in the past week, the past month, the past 3 months, the past year, the past decade, to the fire that's burning in the world today, we wonder, is the world better for us being here? Or is it worse? Let's resolve to do something about that. There is a viable plan of tikkun olam, of fixing this mess. There is a discipline that the Holy One has designed of words and actions and approaches and responses that actually make the world a better place for us to be in it instead of worse. And that is why we're here. And that is why we are called. And that is why we read the Torah. And that is why we follow Messiah. That is why. But if there is a plan to fix this mess, if there is a methodology of tikkun olam for even this disaster we find ourselves in our cultures, in our societies, in our nations, if so, how do we go about it? And who will be willing to break the cycle of negativity? Who will go first? Who will resist the temptation to respond in kind? Who will stop the insult here, insult there, insult everywhere approach? Who will quit dehumanizing and demonizing other people even when they say horrible or do horrible things? If there is a plan to tikkun olam, how do we go about it? And who will be willing to step up into the breach and be the first to break the cycle of negativity and go first? Well, I want to tell you that the stories of Torah, the discussions of the wilderness that we're reading in Parsha, in the book of Numbers, and in Sefer Bamidbar, the stories that we're reading are not just to make us depressed. As a matter of fact, they're not to make us depressed. They're to make us sit there and stop our ranting and our raving for a while, and scratch our chin or our ear or our head and say, how can we stop this? And how can we do better? So they have a plan. In the story itself, you will find little cues, little keys to tell you how to fix it and what to do and who should be the first to start it. And let me just say this without being a spoiler for the entire parsha or for the entire shir that we're talking about from my little cheder here in Texarkana. Let me just, without being a total spoiler, let me just say this. Instead of watching Moshe or Korach or Datan or or Aviram or On, instead of watching the ones who are making all the noise, doing all the things, as you read these stories, watch the one who says nothing, the one who does everything. Watch Aaron. Aaron is the key, and he is the key to Tikkun Olam in this situation. The priest, the one who is the priest, is the key. So let's get some context. Context, they say, is the key to everything, particularly understanding the Torah or understanding any holy writ. Well, I would start it off by saying, what began in Be'alotka is coming to roost, coming to fruitfulness, unpleasantly, in Parsha Korach. Korach consists of the latter part of a unit of wilderness testing sections or segments or parshot. A unit rather, that's designed to reveal the sowing and reaping consequences of indulging in fleshly distractions of the world, negativity of thought and opinion from the spin masters and talkers and politicians and rhetoric of the world. Overcoming what happens, getting sowing and reaping consequences from attitudinal predispositions, allowing ourselves to accept cultural mindsets, ethnic mindsets, generational mindsets, and generational prejudices. We will reap the consequences of sowing in that area. Same thing with regard to self-centered approaches to life and complaining and ranting and griping and criticizing other people and being quick to judge and assuming a higher than thou, better than thou approach of judgmentalism, accusations based upon emotion, based upon projection, based upon other things than besides actual realistic fact, and then antisocial behaviors. These things all have consequences. These are sowing methodologies that will reap a very difficult harvest. Well, these have been running rampant for this past season, and now we're reaping the harvest. So welcome to the long, hot summer. Again, in the northern hemisphere at least. Welcome to the long, hot summer. And let me introduce you to heat hypothesis, which is actually heat reality, I believe. And it is that hot temperatures, the hotter the temperature, the increase you find in tension in the world, and in irritability in people, and aggression in people, and in hostility in people. So more heat, more summer, more tension, more irritability, more aggression, more hostility. You need to know that going into the summer months. And I can tell you that there's a parallel or a corresponding thing in the winter. So for you people in the southern hemisphere, my dear friends down there, you are also dealing with this issue. It's a pendulum swing from one to another. But in the summer, is particularly noticeable. We're in the summer in the northern hemisphere, so that's what we'll talk about. Hot temps increase tension, increase irritability, increase aggression, and increase hostility. And they do not just do it in other people, in the bad people of the world, in the criminals, or in the ideologues, or in the whatever group you don't like. They also do it in you. It's a human response. This is common to all human beings. Heat brings about tension, irritability, aggression, and hostility spikes. That is because the high temperatures of the summer negatively impact both our emotional and our mental health. It is a fact of life on earth in the mortal body. Summer heat is associated, for instance, with higher instances of violent crime, of cyberbullying, of substance abuse, People fall off the wagon or fall back into the needle in seasons like this. People have mood and anxiety flare-ups. There are disorders. If they have schizophrenia, paranoia, social disorder, dementia, these things begin to flare up in the heat. It is a biological construct. Other studies even show that heat causes us to increase errors of judgment. So in other words, our judgment is flawed. It becomes messed up, and we have a lot of occupational injuries or activity-related injuries in the summer that's based largely upon heat and exhaustion. The summer heat brings us a lot of challenges. The first ones are environmental. We have overexertion. We have excessive exposure, overexposure, sleep interruption, derivation. We have storms. Boy, have we ever seen the storms. And there are sequelae. The results of the storms are traumatic and dangerous. We lose things we're used to, power and supplies, and things like that, coffee. We lose all sorts of things by virtue of the fact that the storms come, or we're deprived of in timing. Our systems are interrupted. Our ways of doing things we get disoriented, and that's uncomfortable. And then we have economic and social upheaval every summer. We have supply line issues. We have overstimulation of sight and sound and rhetoric, and it causes the human brain, good or bad human being, a human being begins to crossfire, shortwave wire. There's wiring issues that go on, and we don't respond the way we should. So these environmental challenges are the first thing summer deals with. But in addition to the surging, the summer challenges of environment, we have hormones. We have summertime hormones that burst forth. The beast within us all awakens. We can deal with it most of the time. In summertime, it gets even harder to deal with the desires, the urges, the appetites, the passions, the lusts. All these things begin to flare up. We do things on the influence. If we don't know this is coming, if we don't have a discipline to be able to keep it under management, then we will have difficult problems. And that's what's happening. Surging hormones, surging appetites, urges, drives, and lusts and desires. With all those infusion of hormones comes a little insanity, a little temporary insanity. That I don't mean that we go totally to the place we need to be institutionalized. I just mean that we have a modified version, a corrupted version of expectations. We expect other people to be perfect. We expect other people to do exactly what we want them to. We expect comes with surging hormones, comes with moods and attitudes and approaches to things. We have a kind of a defect, a deficiency in us by virtue of the exposure to the heat and the elements. And then we get our sentimentality goes crazy. We get sentimental about stuff. We weep over kitty cats and puppy dogs and feeling bad, empathies and sympathies. We mistake a sense of compassion for some sense of righteous indignation over that. Sentiments and emotion fire, and then we have fight and flight reactions go crazy. We either want to run away from everything and hide, or we want to get up there and get in everybody's face. So the environmental challenges of summer, the surging hormones that come with the summer, then comes the interpersonal conflicts. That's a necessary result. We're going to have interpersonal conflicts. Have you had any? I presume you have. This is the time of year. It's a season of drama, interpersonal drama and trauma, because you get hurt and wounded. Somebody's always getting offended. There's always the place you can escalate to the place where somebody freaks out and gets hurt. Physically or emotionally, or just takes an offense and goes on. So the interpersonal conflicts come ripe with irritations. Have you felt irritated? Frustrations. Have you felt frustrated? Worries. Have you been worried about money, about finances, about relationships, about people you care about people you don't like? Have you been anxious? Anxiety spikes. Disappointments are focused. We begin to focus on disappointments, what we didn't get, what we don't have. We get restless. We get bored. This is a sign that something's wrong, because that's a warning sign. We should be focused. We should be enthusiastic because do you realize who we know and who we serve, who we are called to honor and who we're called to represent? Wow, no reason for boredom, no reason for restlessness, no reason for disappointment, no reason for sadness. That's all personal, selfish stuff. And then we have, with the interpersonal conflicts come offenses. And boy, it comes out with fear and anger, jealousy and envy. And then we find ourselves where we are as Korach begins, with confrontations. We either love confrontation or we hate it, but it's coming. Our next challenge is propaganda bombardment, lawlessness, lovelessness, and sinat hinam, not wanting other people to receive kindness, mercy, and grace because we just don't think they deserve it. So this portion known as Korach will introduce the man of lawlessness. He's a prophetic type, obviously, but he has a name in this parsha. His name is Korach. We'll see his counterparts, his associates, and Datan and Aviram. They have a different way of approaching things. They have a different motivation in approaching things, but they are sort of in league at the latter days with the man of lawlessness. He's also a man. These are all men of lovelessness. We have a tendency to do that too, become loveless and adopt the sinat hinam, where we don't want to have anybody else get mercy or forgiveness or kindness. So we're going to review and try to get used to the man of lawlessness being in our midst, and the men of lovelessness being in our midst, and then with different mixed motives and approaches being in our midst, and how not to lose our love, not to lose our focus on Torah and our disciplines. Welcome to the politics of dissent and conflict. Well, we're about to face a raging tsunami of emotion, and that's from Korach and his associates, but it arises within every one of us as well. Moshe will feel it. Again, watch Aaron through all this process. He's the key to surviving and overcoming and thriving during this situation. Demagogues. We're going to face them. You hear them. They're all in the news. They're all over the place. They like to talk. People who like talking heads that media puts out, or that movements put out, or that political parties put out, or that ideologies put out. The demagogues and talking heads. These people are making a lot of noise this time of year. But the key is what we're doing. The world is going to be made better or worse by us, not by them, not by competing in the world of demagogues and the ways of demagogues, not by arguing point by point with the talking heads of ideologies or politics or culture or ethnicity or gender or sexuality, not by going head to head with them like that. Watch Aaron, watch the way he does it versus the way even Moshe does it. Demagogues and talking heads, you see, are highly skilled in Minecraft, and they're skilled and trained not by the Holy One, but by the adversary. The serpents speak. They have been doing it since the garden, and now he just infects men and teaches men how to turn on their charm and peddle his poison. That's what they do. Who, though, will stand firm in the divine instructions, in the divine attitude of love, in the divine call to service to God and to man? Who will fall, on the other hand, for the serpentine seduction pitch? Now, I want to talk to you about our calling, about life. Before we get too deep in the details of Parshat Korah, I want to say to you, l'chaim, to life, to the ultimate, to the abundant, to the highest level of life, to l'chaim. And I want to ask you, as we talk about l'chaim and we focus on what life is about, l'chaim, have you ever felt like a dead man or dead woman walking? Have you ever felt like your life was going nowhere? Have you felt like you were not only accomplishing nothing, but you were actually causing more trouble than you were worth? You were throwing fuel on the fire all the time. Have you ever considered or felt that you were sucking air in the world, but neither enjoying the life you had been given to live or doing anything with it that was meaningful? That your breath was just sucking air. That your words were just noise. That your presence was just another irritation to another group. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like a dead man or woman walking? Well, I want to say to you, if you felt like that this week, if you feel like that now, arise, awaken, l'chaim, to life. Awaken to the life you are called to live. I want to remind you of something the Master taught, our Rabbi Yeshua taught, John 10:10. It's part of the Good Shepherd discourse when he was discussing being the shepherd of the sheep and what he was doing for his sheep and how his sheep responded. He says in John 10:10, part B, he says, I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly, full, overflowing. Well, how are you doing on that? Are you truly alive? Or have you fallen into the death spiral of the world, of the politicians, of the talking heads, of the negative people, of the nations? Have you fallen away from the light and the life of the Holy One and the calling upon your life? And have you instead indulged yourself in the filth of the negativity of this world and its flesh and its pseudo-intellect and its ideologies and its opinions? Well, I want to awaken you to this and this call to L'chaim by reading you a little bit out of two Proverbs, Proverbs 4:13 and 6:23. There could be many more I could use. I'm just going to use these two. Proverbs 4:13 and 6:23. Now, I asked you earlier, before I read these to you, I asked you earlier, is there a way we can fix this? Is there a discipline? Is there a tikkun olam modality that the Creator of the universe has designed that will enable us to turn the tide and break out of the death cycle of insult versus insult and escalation to escalation? Is there a way? Well, let's consider Proverbs 4:13 and 6:23. Proverbs 4:13 says, take firm hold, grip, take firm grip on the instructions and disciplines, musar. Take a hold and firm grip on the instruction, the discipline of Torah, and do not let it go. Keep it, natsar, watch over it diligently and keep vigil over him. For he is your chaya, he is your life, he is your hayeka, he is your life. Who is he? It is the discipline, it is the instruction, it is the Torah. 4:13. Take firm hold and grip on the instruction, the discipline of Torah, the musar. Do not let it go. Do not release it. Do not let yourself be pulled away from it. Do not let the people pry your cold, dead fingers away from it. Instead, keep nitzar, diligently watch, keep vigil over him, for he is your life. So there is a pattern, there is a tikkun protocol. Let's read about it a little bit more. It's Proverbs 6:23. It says, for a mitzvah, a commandment as we read in the Word English versions that we read, for a mitzvah is a ner, it is a lamp. For a mitzvah or a commandment is a ner, is a lamp. And the Torah is or, is the bigger, greater, steady, bathing, and illuminating light. So you have one lamp and you have then this great light. So each mitzvah is a ner, a lamp, and the Torah as a whole is a great brighting light. It is Genesis 1:3 I should say. Yehi let there be light. And so the mitzvah is a ner, is a lamp, and Torah is or. And then it goes on to say, derech chaim, the way of, and to life. Okay, l'chaim. Derech chaim, the way of unto life, is tochecha musar, is to let the discipline, the training of the Holy One and His wisdom instructions, let them lead you. And keep in step and on pace. If you do that, it's derech chaim, it's life to you. For it is Chai. Oh, the writer of Proverbs, Mishle, the writer, the Shlomo, the writer of Mishle, he tells you very clearly, this is what your life is. If you want to stay in life and not get caught up in this mess, you've got to stay close to the disciplines of Torah. So we apply the mitzvah. Now think about the fact that each mitzvah is a lamp. What does a lamp consist of, especially in the days of Shlomo? A lamp consisted of a bowl or receptacle filled with oil, so bowl plus oil, which was then wicked, provided a wick, which allowed the oil to soak up into the wick, then introduced to a flame, a fire, to cause it to be, and then became a flickering light. It began, you had this process of lamp. So a mitzvah is not just something you read or something you automatically just do and follow. It's a matter of bowl, oil, wicking, lighting, and flickering and burning. This is the process. It's a process of a discipline. Each mitzvah contains a discipline. Each instruction of Torah contains a discipline. And it's a process. And it continues to work its way out and light the world. And when you add them together, they become the or, the light of the world. This is the way of life, the derech hayim. Now let's apply this to the mitzvah of the fringes, or the tzitzit, that we read last week. The ended last week's parsha, preparing us for this week's parsha. In last week's parsha, the last words we read had to do with the mitzvah of the fringes, or the tzitzit. Make for yourself fringes on the corners of your garments, and put a blue thread, a tefchelet thread on each tassel, and you will have these tassels look at to remember all the mitzvot of the Holy One, and to do them, because lest you go after the lust of the profanity, the adultery of your eyes, and the adultery of your feelings, of your heart, because these things will always lead you in that direction. So we have the mitzvah of the fringes, and it's a lamp, and it is a discipline. It has bowl aspects, and oil aspects, and wick aspects, and fire aspects, and it's designed to flicker. So what do we do with the mitzvah? It's not just a matter of wrapping things around you and putting cloths on. It's a matter of what the idea behind it is, and getting the wicking, the oil into the wick, and letting the fire burn, because we remember it. It's a focus of remembering the mitzvah, the instructions of the Holy One, as opposed to listening to our eyes, what we see with our eyes, or what we feel with our heart. The mitzvah of the fringes is more than just a few dangling strings. It is the disciplines of lighting the lamp for the individual. With that in mind, we'll do our call to worship, and we'll get started. Join with me if you would. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Now would you open our eyes and the eyes of my brethren, O Holy One, that they may see, that we all may see wondrous things right there in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth, so do not hide your mitzvah from us. Again, the closing words of Parsha Shelach Lekah last week were about the tzitzit. And these will be for you fringes for you. And when you see them, you are to remember, call to the forefront of your mind, focus on the fact of the mitzvot of the Holy One, all the instructions, the commandments of the Holy One. And then you are to make them come to pass, make them real, build them like when you build out something with an instruction manual. And not go touring and wandering and profaning yourself after the heart, your own hearts and your own eyes that you have followed into adulteration and fornication. Wow, that's a shock. That was a shock to us. Now, he was warning us that something bad's coming. The harvest is going to come. And we need to stay focused upon the mitzvah, the instruction of Torah, the disciplines to keep us going in the right direction, as opposed to getting caught up in the adulterations. He says, Lama'an tizkeru ve'asitim et kol mitzvotai, that this is so that you may remember to do all my instructions, mitzvot. V'hi'itim kedoshim le'elokim, Elohim, and be kedoshim, be holy ones to your God. Be holy ones. This is a key factor of the speech of Korach and the dispute of Moshe. Be holy ones. How do you do that? By remembering and doing all the mitzvot of the Holy One. That's the discipline. V'hi'itim kedoshim le'elohim, and be kedoshim, holy ones unto your God. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hatsote I am the Holy One, your God, who has delivered you. Me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem la'Elohim, from Egypt, in order that I could be your God. Ani Adonai Elohechem. That's how they ended the Parsha Shalach Lecha. The Holy One knows that as bad as we have made it thus far, from Kadesh Barnea to here we now, we are about to be tempted to do something a whole lot worse. Make an even worse mistake that we've made before by letting all these things that we've been sowing reap their harvest without interrupting them. So was that my imagination? Or did I just feel the earth move? Oh, may we guard our hearts. May we guard our eyes. In Parshas Korach, it will all start with being introduced to seductive demagoguery, propaganda, the world of spin, the world of speakers who are eloquent but who are deceptive. That's the world we're going to be in. You need to know how to deal with this. We need to know how not to be like the rest of the world who falls for this stuff. Because the second part of the island is allowing ourselves not to be taken, not allowing ourselves to be taken in. Taken or taken in, owned by these demagogues, by these people who are spreading all this negativity and all this energetic propaganda in the world. Not to be caught up, taken in. Matter of fact, the first word of the parsha is Vayachak Korach, and Korach took. He was a taker. He took people. He took them in, and he tried to own them. Well, we see this is how the seductive demagoguery and propaganda spreading of the world works. We're always going to be in the midst of it. We're always going to be around it. Don't fall for it. Whether it feeds your flesh, makes you feel good about yourself and get proud and arrogant of yourself, feeds your pride, feeds your self-will, or whether it offends you, don't get caught up in it. This is not why we're here. Remember why we're here? That you may remember the tzitzit, the tassels. What are we supposed to remember? All the commandments of the Holy One, to do them. Well, we're going to see what Korach's, the demagogue's Minecraft toolkit consists of. He's gotten it, he borrowed it from the serpent. And it consists of slogans, catchy slogans, emotionally charged slogans. He's going to say, Rav Lachem. It sounds really good. It's like, too much of you. You're too much. I've had too much of you. You're too much in this. Rav Lachem. And he has other slogans. We'll get to those in a while. He has truisms. Well, all people are holy, and all God loves us all. Oh, truisms. Slogans and truisms, and then ad hominem attacks. Well, who do you think you are, Moshe? Who do you think? You're a horrible person. You're taking control. You're taking too much on yourself. Well, you see, these three slogans, truisms, and ad hominem are the most visible toolkit items in Korach's bag. And you see Moshe's response. Moshe's response, I won't get into details about whether everything he said was perfect or not, but let's get into the issue of fact that his basic message was let the Holy One decide. The question was who is to lead, who is to be in charge, who is considered holy, and Moshe's response, with a little addition to it, was let the Holy One decide. Let there be a test. And then you see there's another group that comes up. We see in this parsha Datan and Abiram from a different tribe. They're not from like Korach. Korach was from Levi, and he had a position in the tabernacle. Datan and Abiram and On, their associates, they're from Reuben, the tribe of Reuben. They really aren't involved in this fight. They just take up the offense because they've got their own agenda. They got their own issue, and they have their own Minecraft toolkit. And that's this nostalgia, the ability to rewrite history as they wanted to see it. They have the personal offense Minecraft toolkit, and they have we're out of here. We're back away. We're not going to participate. We're going to isolate ourselves, and you can't make us do anything. Process. That's their approach. And then we'll see the Holy One intervene, and we'll see a reoccurrence, basically, of Nadav and Abihu's mistake. And fire will come forth and will consume all those who do what Nadav and Abihu did, which is try to bring incense without being told to into the presence of the courts of the Holy One. And then we see a a big Eleazar will make a memorial cover to help us remember never to do stuff like this again, never to get caught up in this, and never to try to be something we're not or not called to do, and just do something out of our own will again. And then we'll have the plague. 14,700 of us will die. Aaron will intercede. Here's Aaron will step into the picture the first time. And what he will do is for the very people who spoke ill of him and Moshe, the very people who attacked him and who made accusations against him, the very people who deserve no quarter, no mercy, he will offer mercy. He will step into the void and he will intercede for them. And he will carry his own, and he will do what the Holy One has told him to do, which is to be the high priest. He will do that. He will break the cycle of negativity. He will be the reason we can heal this, the reason it can be fixed. We still have a long way to go, but someone has to start. Well, here it is for you. Will you be the one that starts, beloved? Will we, as a community, as a faith community, will we as sons and daughters of the living God, will we take the responsibility to forsake the ways of demagoguery, the ways of propaganda, the ways of anger, the ways of offense, the ways of nostalgia and rewriting history, the ways of slogans and truisms and ad hominem attacks and refusals to participate and just running away and hiding? Will we resist that? Will we break the cycle? And will we instead engage in the discipline of tikkun olam that the Holy One has given for us? Focus our attention on what the Holy One has told us to do and begin to do it. Calmly, wisely, respectfully, humbly, and just do what we're put on earth to do. Oh, beloved, if you don't believe that will work, then I just don't know if you believe in the Holy One at all. The Holy One has a grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, individual by individual, as many as will come, deserving or not, and for the restoration of every square inch of creation, every hillside, every valley, every city, every plain, to its original intended state of Edenic bliss, of fruitfulness and shalom and harmonious interaction. Someone needs to step up. Someone needs to step into the breach. Someone needs to break the cycle of negativity. Will it be you? I hope it will. Shabbat Shalom, beloved. We'll see you next week.